Hey guys, today I wanted to try something a little bit different. We're gonna dive into the Infinity Wall series from CK Productions and kind of break down some of the effects that we did for that. I'm gonna go through and basically point out a few shots here and there and kind of talk about how we pulled the effects together for that. There's a few different techniques we used throughout the making of the movie, and I thought it'd be cool to share with you guys some of those techniques. Before we get into it, I would highly recommend, if you haven't already, actually go and watch the Infinity Wall series. We have it on the CK Productions channel in multiple parts, and we also have a full movie on there if you want to watch it all in one sitting. But before that, don't forget to like and subscribe. I post videos 2 times a week now, Thursdays and Sundays. So, here we go.
Here it comes, Luigi.
Okay, so this is one I've been wanting to talk about for a while, and this specifically is the effect where Mario takes out the flood machine and pours a whole bunch of water onto Luigi, in kind of a jet stream. And the way that we did this is kind of a new thing that we haven't done before. We used a plugin from Cinema 4D, which is called, I think, Real Flow, or something like that. And what it does, it basically makes these water simulations that you can go and you can texture them to look like different forms of water. And what you can do is you can kind of play with the physics so it looks like it's like a big stream of water coming out of a source. And when you 3D camera track it on the original clip, you can go ahead and place the stream of water within, the tracking of your scene. I feel like this first shot here came out really, really well. Also, this stuff takes forever to render, this plugin. I was really happy how this shot came out. The following shot, when it hits Luigi here, wasn't quite as happy. This was pretty difficult to pull together. It took me many hours to actually get it to the spot it's at right now. What I was hoping to do is have the water organically splash off of himself, but it was kind of making this sort of icy pattern. So what I did was I supplemented that with a bunch of splash effects from the Video Copilot series, the Action Essentials basically, and sort of adding a bunch of, blurs and other little, distortion effects here and there. That's how it pretty much came to the result that we have right now. Putting a little bit of the water droplets onto the screen was just a nice touch in the end. I forgot that there's like 5 ads on this video, and we're gonna have to go through them as well. That's okay, that's how we make money, and that's how we're able to make more videos for you. Okay, this is the next one I want to go over. It's the Falcon kick that Joe does during the Captain Falcon sequence here when he's fighting Wario. There's a lot of different layers that go into this. First of all, there's the glow that goes around him and the sort of charge up that comes down here. That's just kind of using solid layers, and then the charge up is using solid layers with the mosaic effect on it from After Effects, which makes sort of that kind of pixelaty effect, and animating down really fast like this, and then pre-comping all of those moving shape layers into one layer that has the kind of the rotoscoped mask that I initially made around the character. And any effect that we use that has any glow or any type of, outline or energy surrounding a character and stuff like that, I have to do a pass where I go and rotoscope the character. Not necessarily rotoscope, but do kind of a general mask around their movements, basically, through the whole part. And then using that mask, I can go and I can make any glows or any charge up effects, any saber energy that's going around them and stuff. And it's just kind of a good basis to start off from. And then from there, kind of the most obvious thing that you see here is the Falcon that comes out. And that's actually a 3D animated Falcon model that I got. And I kind of placed it in there and animated it to do this kind of fling and then flap, 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 flap. I didn't really have to texture it or light it or anything. I just needed pretty much the motion of that, sort of taking the render of that model, moving. I could bring in the After Effects and I could add, the glow effects that you see. I can add like the tint of the yellow and all the other effects that make it. I can add like flames to it, and it actually kind of turned out really cool, especially because Wario is doing his shield attack there. It kind of runs in the shield and kind of backs off a bit. And the rest of this kind of stuff here, it's just a mix of particles, fractal layers, Video Copilot, optical flares, shockwave. And there's a pack that we used from Film Riot. I think it's Extinction Effects. Just a bunch of those different layers all kind of layered together, tinted and colored and glowed to all sort of work together. Just a fun fact before you gotta move on. For these sections here where we see Link and Robin in this green screen environment here on this like castle, these pictures actually aren't just from Google. These are pictures I actually shot from a castle in Annecy, France. When you get green screen backgrounds, you always want to use stuff that's really high quality. You don't want to use stuff that's pixelated because when you blow that up on a 1080 or 4K screen, you're going to see that pixelation. When you shoot photography with cameras like this, it's going to be, you know, blown up to almost like 4 or 5K. Okay, so there's like a whole sequence here. It's kind of lightning energy being drawn into Robin's sword and then being passed to Link's sword and then being thrown back at Robin. So there's a lot kind of going on here, and this is one of my favorite sequences to edit throughout the entire series, this fight scene here on the cornfield. It was actually kind of funny when we were shooting this. There's these guys who came up in like these dune buggies. I had no knowledge of who really owned this cornfield or stuff. It was in a public, like, you know, walking area. Thought that these people would come over and were gonna kick us out, but they just kind of came over and said hi, and that's, you know, the end of it. So for this effect here, we have a couple of different things going on. First of all, the lightning effect, that is a combination of just the advanced lightning effect in After Effects, and it's also a combination of the Saber tool from Video Copilot, which is a tool that I use a lot during the series, and it's one of the most useful plugins, the most useful free plugins that Video Copilot has put out. Basically with the Saber tool, you can make a mask layer, and then they have a whole bunch of presets in there of different energy looking effects that go along that mask layer. And it's always important not to just go with the presets that they have. It's important to go in and then kind of fiddle with them to make them look exactly how you want. And that way you also learn and you're not just using presets for everything. And then on top of that, we have optical flares, more Video Copilot stuff. When you're doing these types of effects, it's always good to do some sort of kind of a radial blur or some kind of directional blur or something like that. That's kind of blend all the effects into the scene and sort of gives sort of that magical energy type of feel to it, adding a bit of fog coming out of it, and throw it all together and you get this sort of atmospheric energy, electric effects all flying toward each other, and all 3D camera tracked into the scene as well, which is most important. Even a little turbulent displacement, gosh, there's so much that's put into this effect here. Turbulent displacement is, you know, that's where, you know, you see the screen kind of wobble a little bit. They use that a lot in like kind of Marvel movies and stuff when they use the magic effects. And it's also kind of important to visualize how these are going to flow when you're shooting, because we had to coordinate. Joe pulls up the thing and turns it around and shoots it back. Once it hits them, you know, you have the glow layer here, and you gotta rotoscope the sword here with the glow layer, and then kind of run around and do the opposite effect back. So more of the same atmospheric dirt charges, more lightning effects, and effects that are just flying toward the camera. You really want to, you know, you want to go for broke with some of these things. It's a fantasy piece, so more ads. Here's another one of my favorite effects I've done here. This is honestly one of my, I think my favorite shoot that we did when we went up on the hilltop when it was for the snowing scene. It kind of stinks though, because I went to check out this area the day before and there was at least like 2 inches of snow everywhere, and it was still kind of snowing that day. And honestly, that would have been the more perfect day to shoot it. But this portal effect here, this is another combination of the saber effect from Video Copilot, you know, made in the circle. You know, this is one of their presets that was altered a bit, you know, to have the right color, the purple color for Waluigi, and making the black solid around it, making sure that there's a shadow on the ground on it. 3D camera tracked into the scene, and for this particular scene right here, this is kind of a combination of a few different shots here. So in this initial shot, we shot Joe just standing here and then stumbling as Holly crosses the frame and just kind of running into her here. Obviously there's no portal there or anything, but also you see in the beginning of this shot, Joe isn't there. That's because this is a combination of that shot and then a blank plate. A blank plate is what we use for VFX when we need to, get rid of someone, or if someone's going to appear in the frame. And 3D camera tracked this shot that Joe and Holly were both in. We tracked a shot, which I believe was just like a tripod shot of a blank background in there, and tracked it into just this area here. You kind of use the same 3D tracking there to, track in the portal, track in Joe, and then you rotoscope them into that, blank plate thing, and then eventually it kind of just turns into right here. This is just the normal shot without the blank plate, and the portal is just rotoscoped behind Joe here, and it's good to have a little distortion, a little bit of glow since he's coming out of it, to kind of blend him into the portal a little bit, and then he comes into the real world and bumps into Holly. Yeah, this is one of my favorite episodes. I like this one. Moving on. It's funny, I hate YouTube ads, but we need them, don't we? Finally, the last effect I want to go through is, this is sort of a spoiler, so if you haven't watched this movie yet, go ahead and watch it. Also, to be honest, if you've seen an Infinity War, Marvel Infinity War, you know how it ends, and you're going to know how this ends. So let's go ahead and watch here. All right, so basically, in the end, everyone except for a certain amount of people turn to dust, just like Infinity War. Obviously, this effect is based off of that effect, and there's honestly a lot of different resources on YouTube that you can watch that kind of have different variations of the effect. I actually really like this shot here that we did with the Luma, because there's just so much emotion behind it. When you see her, it's pretty impressive because she's literally looking at nothing here. She's just looking into the air. We have the Luma flying in. The Luma is done with model and then 3D animation in Cinema 4D, tracked back in and then put into there and blended. It's a combination of a particular layer. There's an effect that you can do in particular that it draws its particles from a source clip that you're using. It makes all the particles based on, the properties of that clip. That used with some physics and a couple of layers of masking to kind of wipe the character off. Particles kind of flying. You add a couple little other particles in there as well to sort of add to the effect, and some dust effects as well to sort of just add a little bit more atmosphere to it. And same done for her here. You got to make sure you have a blank shot in the background. And when we go through the shot here, oh my gosh. This movie's so long. This is basically a feature-length movie. There's a mask that starts from here and animates out here to make her disappear, and in conjunction with that, the actual particle layers themselves are sort of tracked onto that mask to reveal themselves as the character disappears. And that's gonna just about do it. It was really cool going back and checking out some of these effects and sharing you guys what we did for that. If you like this video and wanna learn more about some VFX that we've done in CK videos, be sure to comment down below with some of the effects that you do want me to break down. I'd be happy to do videos for them as well. As always, be sure to like and subscribe. I post here twice a week, Thursdays and Sundays. And feel free to follow my Instagram as well to keep up with some of my personal projects and my photography as well. With that, I hope you have a nice weekend, and I'll see you on Sunday. Bye, everyone.